I mean, it's all official like. Larissa, thank you. We're live. All right, how's everybody doing? We have demos getting ready to start. Man, last Lab Friday of the year. I cannot believe that it's already here. Man, I'm blown away by how much we've done in the last 2 weeks. It's been crazy. This feels like just another big, massive meeting for us to celebrate. So I hope everybody's got a drink, ready to jump in. I'm gonna get started. So whoever's playing the tunes, if you wanna dial that off, let that go, Tyler. I think that's you. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Welcome everybody to the last Lab Friday, Venture Lab Friday of 2020. Glad you're all here. It's good to see all of your faces. Welcome guests. Thank you for joining us today. It's always fun to bring people in to get a little glimpse of our culture, a little glimpse of our team and things that we've been working on. I thought I'd take a second real quick to give a little bit of background. Most of this team here knows it, but for those that are on YouTube or on streaming or actually here as guests, I want to tell you a little bit about what Venture Lab is and what Lab Friday is. So if you don't know, Crema is a digital product agency. We design, build, and help organizations think about culture that helps them have their individuals and organizations thrive. So most of our work is client work. Most of it's business work. Every once in a while, though, we know we need to create space to explore and learn and grow. And so several years ago, we came up with this idea to create a dedicated period of time where we could allow our team to dial down the client work as much as physically possible and look for ways to experiment, to try new things, to work together, maybe with people that they don't normally get to work together with, and learn and grow. And it was pretty informal. It didn't really have a whole lot of structure around it. It was basically, hey, still show up on this every other Friday. Hey, yes, this is still part of the thing we're going to pay you to do. But what we're going to allow you to do is, watch a video or take a course together or maybe tinker and build something or try out a new framework or try out a new tool. And that's honestly still a part of every other Friday for us, part of Lab Fridays. And you'll hear a couple of the Lab Fridays updates today, but the general theme for us there is about continual education and growth. So big theme for Crema is we keep saying that if we're the same company if we're the same company in 2 years from now that we are today, we'll likely be obsolete. This industry, this world is changing too fast. We need to make sure that our people are learning fast. So we do that both in the client work that we do and also through these Lab Fridays. But we had some individuals that came to us, I think, Dan, was it 2 years ago now?
January of 19, yeah.
Wow, gosh, time flies. So 2 years ago and said, hey, George and Dan and team, we'd love for there to be a bit more structure, which we thought as creatives, they don't need structure, they just want to make things. And in reality, as they said, we'd be great if we had a little bit of structure to give us some purpose, and maybe we can actually build some things as dedicated teams. So what we did was we allowed certain individuals to submit their ideas for either an app or a business idea, and then they pitched in front of us, and then we vetted those down to a small group. And then the second part was that they had to go find basically a team. They had to champion their idea and go find people that were willing to work with them on creating their products. So we have created over the last couple of years, as we've continued to iterate and test this idea, we've narrowed it down to allowing, I think we're at 4 teams right now. Is that right? 4 teams that are dedicated to working on one product, the same product every other week. They've recruited a small group together, and you'll hear updates on what they've accomplished over the last year. Now, remember, they're only working on it every other week. So this isn't something where this is their full-time gig. They're literally getting 6, maybe 7 hours that they stretch themselves out a little bit every other Friday. So we joke about it being like a 21 to 24 day venture. And if you put the 2 years together, which Dan has been working on an awesome framework for this, but if you think about 2 years together, you get something around like a 40 to 44 day venture launch. It's unique, it's different, it's coming out of an agency, so we get to do that kind of thing. But that's kind of what the story of Venture Lab looks like. Dan, anything I missed there? Anything you want to add?
No, I honestly just wanted to give a little bit more I guess, granularity on Venture Lab as a whole, I kind of, I feel a little bad for our first teams in 2019 because they were basically trying to build the plane while they were flying it. And so really a lot of the impetus for putting some structure and just a little bit more thought into how we want to do Venture Lab at Crema and what works for us, the model itself, how we put our own Crema spin on it, was really to give them guidance on what does it look like to pitch an idea, start working on the idea, prototyping it, validating it, and then putting out into the market. So that was number one. Number two is that for our model, Crema as a whole, in the next 3 to 5 years, strategically, we want Venture Lab to be a bigger part of that. So for any of you out there that are in where you're offering services, obviously time is valuable. Time is of the essence. But working on our own ideas, like George said, every other Friday, we always found ourselves, we're going back and forth on, we want to dedicate more time, but it felt like it was a give and take. And so our hope over the next 3 to 5 years, our goal anyways, is to allow Venture Lab to be, maybe have more dedication than we are doing now, while still serving our clients well and thriving in our service-based business. So that's why a lot of time went into this year of clarifying the mission of Venture Lab and the model of Venture Lab. And so really what we are, we're our own homegrown incubator. We're catalyzing and generating ideas within. And we have a lot of champions that you'll hear from later that have pitched ideas, which in of itself is an act of courage to think of something and then get up in front of your peers, pitch it, and then recruit a team, recruit peers that hopefully are as passionate and interested in the idea as you are. And so that's one of the things around the model. The other one is then once they're chosen, as George mentioned, we have this 42-day Venture Lab model where 21 Fridays in year 1, 21 Fridays in year 2, split into 3 7-day trimesters per year. And so this year, I know it's like boom, 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 boom. Here's my class syllabus, and here I go to get my graduate degree. No. So really what they're working on within this model is to year 1, the hope is to validate an MVP that can find product market fit. And then year 2 is to take that, continue to grow on it, test it, and then gain traction, either from a revenue standpoint, a monthly growth, month-over-month growth in users or customers. And then at the end of that is to, honestly, that's where we're still experimenting and exploring, is like what happens to a Venture Lab product as it leaves the nest, so to speak. And so that's where we're at now. Our goal in the next, again, 3 years is to make it to where Venture Lab and our work that we do for our clients each and every day can coexist, and we can put more dedication. So what's in it for next year? Continual refinement, and then continue to explore what does it look like for a product to move through Venture Lab out of year 2, and what are all those possible end games that a product could go. So anyways, that's where we're at. It's really exciting. I'm excited to work more on it next year. We have some great products that you'll hear about later, but yeah, that's where Venture Lab is at.
Thanks, Dan. One of the things that you'll notice when we do get to the Venture Lab teams is, like I said before, predominantly most of the work that we do with our client services is B2B, enterprise software solutions, and occasionally for startups as well. And so a lot of our work is in kind of business solutions. And so what you'll find is that a lot of our team likes to take this opportunity with Venture Lab, because we don't necessarily have a constraint on the type of product or business that they're going after, and they've built consumer products. So you'll see a consumer product theme. And then one of the big challenges that both Dan and I and some of the coaches here have really put on top of our both the champions and the teams themselves is keep it simple. You've got 42 days, right? Or you've really got 21 days in your first year to that idea out. So you'll notice these are going to be simple solutions. Most of them are trying to think about how they can hit a consumer market. And again, it's about creative process, about culture of pulling together, having the courage, as Dan says, to step out and go for it. So excited to show more. But since you guys are listening in, you're getting a little sneak peek into our world. We normally start off with Lab Fridays. And most of the time we have a big Miro board, which is an online collaboration tool where we'll go through literally everyone in the company and get updates from them. We're not going to do that today for the sake of time. We want to give our Venture Lab teams a little bit extra time, but we do have 2 updates and demos from some Lab Friday folks. So let's kick off with those. And again, remembering Lab Friday is about experimenting and personal education, a little bit different than just the Venture Lab teams. So Louise, I think you're up first. I'm going to throw it to you if you're ready.
I'm not ready, but let's do this.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah.
I'm ready. I'm just kidding. As ready as I'll ever be. Since COVID started, I have missed many things. One of the things I have missed the most is the office. So today took the day trying to explore what would look like if I wanted to recreate a virtual version of the office. So I'm going to share my screen real quick. And I have set up a Miro board. Thank you, Joe and Neil, for the template. And I was exploring with some tools. There's this tool called Phaser, and it is a game engine, lets you build games for the browser. So I was like, okay, maybe I can make an office space that kind of looks like a game. And I wanted to build the world for it to look like the office. And there's this software called Tiled that lets you build tiled maps. And tiled maps are just these maps. They're like top down, full of squares, and you literally drag and drop squares to build some map, and then you load that into Phaser. So that lets you use the map as if it were a game. And on top of that, I have a React application running. So it's kind of like a landing page for the game where you can set up your name, tell you who you are, and hopefully in the future be able to choose your character, what you look like, and things like that. And that connects through a socket to a Node.js server that keeps track of everyone's position so you can see each other as you walk around the office. And in addition to that, it connects to a WebRTC, which stands for real-time communication, with everyone else that's in the world. So you guys have voice and you can talk to everybody that is connected all at the same time. And the voice is louder or quieter based on your proximity to that person. There's more technical things going on here. I'm kind of breaking it down, how things communicate to each other. And I will not bore you with all the details since for the sake of time. So I'm gonna actually show you what it looks like. So first, this is the landing page. Haven't had a lot of time to build it, but it basically asks, who are you? Put in my name. And there you go. I'm in the loft and I'm using my arrow keys to walk around. And I should have picked 3 or 4 people to join the loft with me so I could demo what it would look like for us to talk to each other. But I think I would just go ahead and share the link. So if you guys want to join the loft, click the link. And it might be chaotic. The server might just crash because there's a lot of people in this call, but you'll start down here where the door to the loft would be. So as soon as you join, I want you to walk away because there might be a lot of people and might be a little bit chaotic. But
Where's the link, Luis?
Put it in the Zoom call right now. If I can find the chat. There we go. The link is in the Zoom call. Click it, type in your name. Hopefully we'll be able to see each other down below here. Oh boy. Dang, there's a lot of people and I can hear myself. I should probably have muted myself. But so yeah, the office.
Luis, this is fantastic.
Okay, it's chaotic, but it's fun. This is what I did today, and I'll stop sharing. Hopefully the audio will be less crowded, but thank you all for joining the loft.
Oh my gosh. So that will be the most distracting. We should have done that at the end. We should have done this at the end. And I've got to turn my own screen off. That's fantastic. If anyone remembers, we actually had a holiday Christmas party, which I shared this with Louise, a holiday Christmas party space that was kind of the similar isometric walking around. but it took us weeks to build that thing, and you built it today, which I think is fantastic. And oh, by the way, it couldn't handle this many people in it. I think it crashed several times. So spend some time in there, but as much as possible, I'm going to ask you guys to bring your attention. Louise just made a really shiny object for a bunch of creatives to go look at and play with. But dude, so cool. Well done. That is fantastic. So I want you guys to spend some time in there, but if we can, let's bring our attention back, because I know we have another Lab Friday update, and I want to make sure we give them our respect and attention. So I'm going to pass it over for the last time to our very own Joel. Joel, you're up. Unless you're in, the Crema virtual office and just walking around in there.
It'll be easier for me to share from real life virtual space. So Neil and I have been on a lot of projects together. Wave at everyone, Neil. So we've ended up spending a lot of time doing just Miro boards after Miro board for hours and hours, doing technical research and planning and just all these diagrams to figure out what the heck we're doing on all these projects we've been in together. And since I'm leaving Crema soon, I figured it'd be a good time we spent some of today taking all the diagrams we've made that could be useful to people and putting them into a single board to use as templates. So without further ado, let me know if you can't see that. It's split up into these different kind of phases or sections for technical research that you might be going through. And then these are all linked to the frames. So like, let's see, what's a good one that doesn't have client information on it? Yeah. So this would be like a rough implementation plan just to start thinking through phases or ideas of what the implementation would look like. Another one, Neil has like a cool ERD diagram here. Oh yeah. Yeah. So that's an example, but so everything from just technical brainstorming, like really hand wavy stuff, to technical specifications like this that has a really rigorous meaning and can't really be misinterpreted if you know how to read it. Yeah, so I won't go through too many more details, but just so everyone knows it's here. And it actually looks like Louis has already used some of these full stack architecture diagrams, which is so cool that someone's already using them. So yeah, anything you wanted to add, Neil?
No, I just want to say that, even though Miro might not be totally the best, like kind of ERD programming, there's Visio and other stuff out there. It's so great for us is because you can get a bunch of developers in there. You can do it real time. And then since our product managers and our strategists are using Miro, we can be right there next to them in Miro, brainstorming our technical ideas. And I think it has probably stopped Joel and I from having nervous breakdowns trying to figure out how to plan a project, because, well, here's all the information we need. We can do it right next to it, and we can sit there real time with everyone else and do it. And it's a great way, and especially with Miro, you can export the stuff as any way you want to. So the hopes is that we do this as initial brainstorming, initial planning, and then kind of building that documentation as a project progresses, new section, new enhancements of a project. Well, let's start designing it out. Let's make this, final. And then at the end, hopefully you have something to also hand off to the client for, their developers when they onboard their own developers. So we're not just kind of handing over a huge project that no one knows how to work. So, or how to go through the data. So it has been very helpful. And maybe George, we can get you to give Miro some more ideas of how we feel we could use it better. So, it's kind of only way is up with it, I feel.
Question, Joel and Neil. What else is missing that that stops us from becoming like an official Miro template that we could submit to the Miroverse and it becomes a part of Crema's public templates for others to use?
I would maybe I haven't searched enough through it, but I would really like a better ERD diagramming kind of thing. Like I use one of their objects that kind of looks like an ERD, but it doesn't seem to really fit like the normal cool model that every kind of example you see out there has. That's one thing, but you can pretty much do anything, I feel like, and you can make it look like, and if you can understand the data on it, it's fine. So just kind of DIY and work with what you got, and it's been extremely helpful.
Another thing to
Justin, we would have to go through and remove anything that could identify a client. So that's why I didn't zoom in on a lot of stuff.
Right. Another thing I was thinking when we think about using this in Miro and having it be a long-term asset is recording Loom videos for each module and then leaving it there so that anyone can jump in. Not only is your documentation there, but even understanding your thought process and why you did certain things and why it's laid out this way. And I think that for the client as well, as different people from clients come on a couple of months and do an engagement or whatever, could be really cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, Joel, this is going to be an incredible legacy from your work here. So I really appreciate it. As many of you know, that Joel is going to be working with an agency in Minneapolis. I think they're going to benefit a ton from having him on their team, both as a mentor and as a developer. We're excited for him. So it's bittersweet, but thank you, sir. I really appreciate everything that you've done for Crema, and definitely leaving this behind as something to remember as how brilliant you are. So thank you. And you know, when you move back to Kansas City, you know where you'll be. So it's all good. It's all good. All right. Any other updates on Lab Friday before we jump into the Venture Lab teams? I didn't get any messages. Dan didn't get any messages today, but those were both awesome. Thank you guys for taking the time to demo. So it's clear, I know that several other people, because I saw some activity, were working on things today, but they may not had something to demo specifically. So great work, great work. All right, well, let's keep moving forward. Let's get into our Venture Lab teams. As I mentioned before, we've got 4 teams that are going to be giving updates, and then kind of a 5th kind of extra, like, remember the thing that we did? We're going to giving an update as well. But let's go ahead and kick it off. Pamela, you want to talk to us about what you've accomplished this year with Meerkat?
Great. Thank you, George. I'm going to start by sharing my screen. Hopefully I'm sharing the right one this time. Can you guys see it?
Yep, that's great.
Awesome. So hello, everyone. Today I'm going to kick off the Venture Lab teams with Meerkat, our newest product. So Meerkat joined Venture Lab the last trimester of 2020. So we have had around 7 working days, and it joined as a cloud meeting app for K-12 students. Having said that, we are still on a discovery phase. Why this product? Because we know COVID-19 has left a huge mark on the way we work, the way we communicate, the way we interact, but also on the future of education. We adults, professionals, were lucky enough that we were able to transition to this new world because we had the tools. We had Zoom, we had Miro, we have Figma on the design side. That was not the case for kids and for education. Kids found themselves using tools that were built for the business world, and they had to adopt those for education. As of now, no video conference app was built with the education and with kids as a purpose. So what we did, we focused on 4 areas the past 4 months. We did market and problem validation, tech research, marketing brand development, and UI exploration. One of the first things we did was focusing on market and problem validation. And for that, we did a lot of interviews, surveys, lead model canvas, and competitive research. What we learned is that confirming attendance, engagement, and muting students are issues across all levels of education, and that elementary school age kids are the ones that struggle the most. one of the most insightful exercises that we did was that after all this preliminary research, we ideated the features that this app could include. We put a survey out with about 8 features, and what we found is that across all levels, we need to build an app that we have the ability to mute students, share a screen, and that improve engagement. Without this, the app wouldn't be successful. We found that between middle school and high school, they need the same things, and that elementary school students have other needs and need another type of experience. One of the interesting things that we found through these surveys that were answered by 48 teachers is that in the exercise the question was, we have these 8 features, pick 3 and give them a score. What we found is that half of those teachers were middle school and high school teachers, and 4 of those teachers picked the virtual calming corner as something they would like to have, which that idea came from some of the interviews where teachers said that they built a virtual calming corner inside Google Slides. Our expectation was that elementary school teachers would pick that option, but no, even it's something that we can ideate, and we have a lot of ideas around how we can provide that to middle school and high school students. So knowing that engagement was one of the things teachers wanted to improve, instead of focusing on how we're going to build this video conference app, we focus on that feature for the tech research. And I'm going to let Michelle and Lex talk about this.
All right. Yeah, thank you. So so we explored several different technologies to help scope out our stack. And here are some of the ones we narrowed it down to. So it is important to note that we initially were looking into the potential of a mobile app. So we started off exploring Flutter versus React Native as a possibility. We also looked into WebRTC for real-time video communication, as well as Face API for measuring that engagement inside a virtual classroom. We ultimately ended up focusing in on React, which is where you see React up there. This technology is something that we know pretty well, and as of right now, there aren't really any key features that would warrant that we must go the mobile route. So again, that's where we're focusing in on React. As far as what we learned, one of the things that we learned was there are a lot of different options for WebRTC wrappers out there. There's a bunch. And we eventually just started to narrow it down to Twilio's video SDK. Without getting too technical, it is a very well documented SDK, and looking at that SDK, it's very apparent that security was at the forefront when they were building this out. And naturally, given what we're working with video communication and also engagement with children, security is definitely a big concern for many people. So Twilio was a no-brainer. And some of the other things we're looking into were like, what are we going to do for hosting? And Twilio is more than happy to host their apps. So that is one of the hosting options that we were looking into, as well as potentially Google. So just going over this chart real quick, that top path is like our front end client layer. That middle half is like some of the back end technologies we're looking into. And we're looking into Firebase for database stuff. And then we've got our TensorFlow or potentially Firebase ML for some of the machine learning when we are working through our Face API technology. And I think I'll pass this on to Michelle to jump into more of that aspect for now.
Thanks, Lex. So if you noticed in that stack, we did have TensorFlow, which is the open source library for machine learning. So we were able to make use of some of those ML models trained to recognize landmark points on a person's face. So here on Lex's lovely face, we made a proof of concept that tracked 68 landmarks to detect if a face was actively engaged in the video. And you'll notice when it loses that face for a period of time, it will send a prompt to the user. So exploring this feature could help us set apart from other video conferencing apps by allowing teachers to easily keep track of student participation.
And I just wanted to also just round it out and pull it in terms of like what we're looking at hosting. You see with TensorFlow and Firebase, we're using a lot of Google technology. So if not Twilio, potentially Google Cloud could be an option. Just that could be a pretty easy integration. But again, we're still really trying to map that out.
Yeah, and that idea came from the user interviews where the teachers explained that one of the distractions they have is that while they're presenting, they have to keep track of who's looking at them, and they say, "Hey, if you're not looking at me, I don't know if you're paying attention." So that's where we're trying to help taking that away from the teacher.
Yeah, because the challenge is, how do you measure that engagement in a virtual space? It's, how do teachers do that? It's a lot easier when you're in the classroom and you're physically there, but how do you do that in a virtual space? So
exactly. Thank you, guys. So with the brand development, the brand story, we really wanted to find a way to make the audience and the users of this product the hero. So we did a lot of research, a lot of reading, and found that meerkats are the only animals that have shown evidence of true teaching. Normally in animals, the young pups learn by observing, but with meerkats, they actually incrementally introduce dead, injured, and then live prey in order to teach the young pups to help them how to find food. So we thought that was a really good relationship where we could work with and write a brand story around that. And also the image of the meerkat also gave us inspiration on the visual language and visual side of the brand. So this is Meerkat. This is what we have now, and we're using primary colors basically because of the audience. We're working with kids, but also because the teachers, they use a lot of colors on things that we found that presentations are very bright. So that's why we're using a primary color palette. When it comes to the UI of the app, what we want to explore, and we're working towards finding a good balance of that virtual and in-person experience to create a robust teaching environment. That means the view of the teacher needs to be completely different from the view of the student, because the teacher needs to have a holistic view of the classroom and have them the ability to create that classroom the way they want, just like they do right before the school starts. And also on the student side, find a way to keep all those different needs in mind too, kids that need a special ed, or work with a TA. So what's ahead? 2021, we want to build an MVP. So that's the goal for next year. And for that, we want to do a feature design sprint, which worked really well with the previous product, solidify our tech stack, host a roundtable with our backend devs to talk about that architecture and hosting. Also test the prototype that Lex and Michelle show, and also the prototype that I have for design, and work on more marketing strategies. That's something that we actually started this year, where we want to have a page and get sign-ups if people are interested in this product. That's it. Thank you.
Well done. Oh, so good. What questions do you guys have? Time to ask it.
Hey Pamela, do you think this is like parents and kids first, or do you feel like it's school and school district first in terms of how you go to market?
It can. I think it can go both. This is something that it can go both ways. it's definitely, if we want to improve that communication between kids and adults, then we can probably go another way with the app, right? But I think for now, it's education. We're gonna build it around the education environment, but it can actually work another way.
It's a great question, Tyler.
Thank you.
What other questions do
Pamela,
you guys have?
is there a way, I know apps like and Circle exist that take what Zoom is doing and you can modify it as a user. Is there any way that if a teacher is saying, hey, our school is requiring us to use Zoom, that they will be able to use Meerkat with Zoom, or is it going to be a totally separate experience?
We actually, Joel, he actually did research for us last Venture Lab, and using Zoom, it's not something that will work for this product, especially because we want to customize. We want to give the users the ability to customize the view, so it won't work with Zoom.
Yeah, there's a lot of technical limitations in their SDK right now that wouldn't allow us to build out our own unique product. It would be more like, using Zoom would be more like making an add-on to Zoom versus making Meerkat its own thing.
So then my next question, and y'all can stop me if I'm asking too many questions, is what is it, knowing that the academic calendar begins in September or August, how do you think through user testing and a go-to-market strategy, knowing that there's kind of like, it's got to be done by August, they're probably not going to switch over mid-year. How are you thinking through adoption and just kind of the unique school district? Is it school-based? You know, it's just so nuanced.
That's a great question. So I've thought about that too, like the time of lunch, but it can also be like our first target could be tutoring services. There is a lot of online tutoring services, and that's something that I think we could explore first and then go before going to the districts. That's a great question.
Pamela, you mentioned special education, and I think that that's something really great to call out, because one of the things that lacks in Zoom right now is that ability for the teacher's assistant or a special resource in some way to support support those individual kiddos. I have one of those kiddos, and honestly, remote learning has been a really challenging thing for them to be involved in their primary classroom, which science has showed is good to not isolate them.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm curious to see, is that another factor that goes into a kind of role management? Because it sounds like you'll need to know, like, who is the teacher's assistant and who is this?
Exactly. All those will be managed as a role. Once you create the plan is to have that in the onboarding. So being able to add if a student gets a special ed teacher in the middle of the year, which that can be the case too, being able to add a tutor of a special ed to assign that to a student.
Yeah, it's great. What are the questions? I'm looking at the chat as well. I know there's some chatter about just encouraging you towards that area of validation. Any other questions from our team and guests as well? If you have a question for Pamela, we're happy to have you here. So feel free to chime in if you have a question for her approach. Nate asks, what aspects of education do you think will remain virtual as vaccine is rolled out and kids return back to school full time? I'm curious if the market opportunity will disintegrates before you get to market. It's a good question. Is there a window of opportunity right now because we're forced to be at home, but maybe we won't be forever?
Yeah, and that's why I think with timing, I think I feel like, and we need to validate too, some of it during the early research with the teachers said that some of them like to work from home. So they will look for these opportunities to work from home. And on the parent side, some parents have said that the distance learning, their kids are doing better. Mm-hmm. So it may be something that it becomes a hybrid model, but I think also like I said, the online tutoring services, this can be a product that there's a lot of those now, and they've always been. So I think those are gonna still be in the market. So this can be a product and help them too.
I think you're absolutely right. Alternative education is still a huge market for how kids outside of the normal, maybe public school system are learning. Also, for what I've heard, basically they're saying like snow days will no longer be a thing in the future. Like we now know we can do it remote, and so you don't have to shut down classrooms. You can keep doing education, so you don't have to extend the school year. That's great. Let's see, other questions here. Laura asks, makes me wonder what sort of outsourced homeschooling teaching model out there. Is that a thing? I know we have some folks in Crema that actually do homeschool their kids. So I think that is an area where they're looking. Sometimes they'll do a peer group or a co-op model for some of their subjects or some of the things that they work on. So any other questions? And feel free to unmute and just ask your questions. You don't have to ask it in the chat.
What are some of the biggest technical kind of unknowns in your mind right now? Just as now that you know what you know, what are kind of the things that give you the greatest level of pause, I guess, as you're thinking about the future?
It's building it in 21 days next year. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah, and Michelle and I have talked about this. For starters, it's just really ironing out our back-end technologies and how those connect together. Testing, integration testing is another thing we really want to build from, have that in mind from the start. Security, Twilio has some security features, but I'd imagine we'd probably need to really look into that a bit more. So yeah, those are the ones I can think of at the top of my head.
Cool. Thanks.
Good question. Any final questions before we move on? All right. Well done, Meerkat. You guys are, really 7 Lab Fridays. They didn't even have the whole year. So just for context, they came in the 3rd trimester, which means they've only had the last 7 Lab Fridays, which is super incredible to see just how much they've validated and how much they've learned. Super impressed, guys. Well done.
Woo. Good job. Good job. Good job.
Good job.
Couldn't decide where I was going with that. This is embarrassing.
That's good.
I'm gonna mute myself.
All right. Well, we're going to move on. I think Scorebot is up next.
Yep. So let me share my screen. All right, can you all see the presentation? Awesome. So I'm Courtney Johnston-Vanita, and today I'm going to talk to you guys about Scorebot. It's an add-on app that is encouraging remote teams to stay active and engaged in Slack. So Slack is a cloud-based chat tool for teams. Their tagline is where work happens. And in 2020, that became true for so many more people than were on it last year. We've been invested in Slack as our primary communication tool since 2013. Last year, when we were getting really excited about diving in and developing a first-class app for the Slack community, we were excited about what they looked like in 2019, which was 100,000 paid accounts, 12 million daily active users. That has been upped so much this year by so many remote teams coming on board and adopting Slack. So now they've increased their accounts 140% year over year, and their revenue has gone up nearly 40%. They are in the middle of an acquisition by Salesforce for $27 billion. And they're, instead of 12 million users per day, now they're up to 13 million concurrent at one time in the middle of the workday. All of this has given them a greater focus on the platform and the tools that are being built upon it, and funding those tools and making more improvements for it. So now we're even more excited about building on this platform. So the way the Scorebot works, it's our Slack app that utilizes a small but much loved feature of Slack. When a user makes a comment or post, all the users can react to that post with an emoji. Scorebot gives you a dashboard to assign point values to those emojis. And when you post a cute picture of your dog, people will react with them. And you will earn all the points associated with those emojis. However, those points can be positive or negative. So if a cat lover gives you a thumbs down worth -50, you're gonna lose those 50 points too. So earned points are reflected on a leaderboard, which amps that competition and encourages the continued engagement. At Crema, our posts just absolutely overflow with reactions and with acknowledgement and that interaction. And it's because we've made that acknowledgement valuable and powerful through Scorebot. Ooh, hopped ahead there. So some little stats about Scorebot and where we're at now. We currently have 450 teams actively using Scorebot. Those are active teams from the last 6 months or 60 days. And we are processing on average 137,000 actions per month. This is a 20% increase for both numbers over where we were last year. Last year we were down at 375 teams and processing closer to 115,000 per month. We've maintained our largest accounts that we had last year, and we've added on exciting TV and movie editing companies, a large consortium of companies and schools doing COVID data research, and a bunch of regional nonprofits. So Scorebot started as a side project for Crema in 2016, and there was incremental building happening through 2019. When in 2016, it started off with a strong launch on Product Hunt, and it consistently added more accounts each month than it lost. And we've never gone negative on that amount. We've always gained more than we've lost, and we've had a continued upward growth strategy. So in 2019, we focused a lot of energy on building what we thought it should be. And then in 2020, we interviewed our customers and aligned on what actually they needed it to be. So user testing provided us key insights into how our customers were using Scorebot and how they wanted to use Scorebot. A main theme that came out of these user interviews was that so many of our users thought they were using Scorebot wrong. We'd never published any sort of specifics or rules or instructions on how to use it. We just assumed it was a fun free-for-all because the most management we had is you can add a point value to an emoji or edit that point value. But all these teams still wanted it to be fun and to engage their users, but they really needed more administration and support. There was a lot of situations where people just wanted to use one emoji, and we built out this infrastructure where it thinks about every single emoji a user has loaded. So we've learned a lot about our users and how they want to manage their workspace usage of Scorebot and how they want to manage emojis specifically. So supporting our users with more administration tools, support, and infrastructure required changes to our model and to our team to support all the findings from our user tests. Gabby Caton joined our team as a marketing specialist and spearheaded blogging and social. Derek Mendes and Ashley Holbrook joined as developers and did major work on our UI and billing functionality. With our increased development team, we were able to build the administration features that our users repeatedly asked for in those user tests and in support requests. With these new features, we'll be implementing a paid model for access. This required a billing and billing administration system to be added as well, and Derek knocked that out of the park by putting in Stripe. We got billing and paid administration currently in our staging environment going through testing, and everything looks great, so we are assuming we are going to release this next month. Our developers also had to take a lot of time to respond to the Slack's ever-changing APIs and curating compliance changes. And these are the main issues we have with building on someone else's platform. There's always going to be changes at the platform level we have to react to. And having this larger development team is allowing us to be nimble with those changes so they don't slow down our forward progress. Since we are doing this every other Friday, a big change coming through from Slack can just halt everything in its tracks. And now that we have 3 developers working on the project, we're able to still keep moving forward and still keep responding to customers and releasing features that our customers have been asking for. Gabby's improvements on the marketing side to our content, our social, and adding a blog to our website have increased our traffic and our users and how many pages those users view. These resources are going to be continued to be built out to support our clients so they know how extensible Scorebot is, to give them more help in knowing that they're not using it wrong and that there's a myriad of ways we can set up their instance to match their culture. All of our numbers you'll see, they increased about 25%. So we're getting more people in now. People are more interested in Scorebot, and we've never really pushed our email list signups other than just having the box on the main page, but we are consistently getting new users signing up for that weekly. So as we're preparing to launch a paid model, we also have to be ready to initiate systems for growth and support. And this year we launched a redesigned marketing website. We gave users a voice in choosing our next features with a public roadmap that allows them to upvote the ideas that they want to see. We moved all of our communication tools to branded forms through our own site so that we're no longer having to filter through MailChimp, Typeform, and other tools that can hide or stack information, and so that we have the information in our website where we can get to it easily. We also created fact pages for user self-support. And on our side to demo out in the future, we've created high fidelity markups and visuals so we can demo this out to companies that come to us with interest. And so that also we can start targeting specific culture champions and people ops leaders to share this product with. For direct communication support, we added small chat to our website, and we have continued email support. Small chat has been great. It hooks right into Slack. So since we work in Slack, if a request comes through on our website, we get it in our Slack instance and we can respond immediately there. We've used this numerous times. People seem to really love being able to get an instant feedback to us. We also handled around 50 support requests this way this year. And so now we need a more formal system. So in addition to the chat on the website, we're going to be moving to Jira Service Desk and setting up a knowledge base so that users have the support that they need. We solidified our revenue model and made our pricing page live this year. From that, we had our first conversation with an interested enterprise client, and they reiterated to us that our decision to stay secure and not read messaging content is the right one. We're going to grandfather in our existing users. So if you are on this call and you do not use Scorebot currently, if you install it now, it might give you a little boost versus next month when it will be a paid product. So for 2021, Scorebot is still going to be a Venture Lab product. However, we have finished the 2-year curriculum of learning that's in place for this. So we've gone through the process of doing a lean model canvas, of interviewing our users, of really prioritizing a backlog and a roadmap. Now we're just going to be focusing further on meeting the needs of the customers within that process. So the learnings that we've gotten from our customers, they're going to enable us to launch a paid program with Stripe billing in January and onboard new customers onto that experience. We're going to be focusing time and money toward growth with marketing and ads, including more video content and more content focusing on how our commitment to securely interacting with Slack sets us apart from our competitors. And we want to work with Slack to increase our presence in their Slack app directory and get featured by them and work to get in their blog. We want to get our clients into a cycle of communication with us for onboarding, support, and user testing. And we want to communicate clearly with them as we release new features so no one feels that they're using our product wrong again. If it meets their needs, they're using it right, and we're the ones that need to learn from that. We want to be a presence at Slack conferences and culture conferences and anywhere people are looking for engagement through webinars and sponsorships. So we will be offering up the ability to co-host webinars with HR and culture companies. Scorebot is currently available in the Slack app directory, or you can get it from our website at getscorebot.com. Thank you.
So good. Well done, Courtney and team. Anybody have any questions? I know that Scorebot's one that we've been working on for a long time, but such incredible intentional decisions this year. So I really just want to give you guys so much credit for being so thoughtful about how you can support your users. Courtney, that's been the theme for me with you this year, is just seeing how much you care about the people that are using your product and just want to serve them in any way possible and listen to them in any way possible. So good. Any questions for the Scorebot team? Other than just like pure celebration in the chat right now.
Oh, I can't see the chat, so
It's all good.
I don't know.
They're basically just saying you guys are awesome, that you've, how much can someone acquire the company for? Yeah. To Dan, you might speak a little bit to this. This is something we've been thinking about into the, what does it look for an extension or kind of going into the next phase of Venture Lab when someone's already been in it for a while. Do you want to talk just briefly about that, or is that something you want to touch on later?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Courtney touched on it a little bit of going into, so they've gone through 2 years, but going into year 3. So Scorebot and Cup, who you'll hear from here in a little bit, consider them our 5th year seniors, so to speak. They want, I mean, for the most part, they're on such a good track and they're gaining traction, they're getting validation, but also it wouldn't be fair because we developed a 2-year curriculum when they were already in their 2nd year. And so, again, where they're at now, our hope is as they continue on in year 3, we're just seeing it almost as an extension of that 2nd year because of where they were in Venture Lab when this curriculum came about. But yeah, so there are our red shirts or our 5th year seniors, so to speak.
Courtney, I have a question. One of the things that you pointed out, and I'm not sure, I was maybe not here on the Lab Friday that you released it. What are you using to do that public roadmap? I think that's such a brilliant idea to kind of let the users participate in voting that up towards where you want to go. How are you doing that?
That is a website called Fun Retro.
Awesome.
It looks like Trello. It is free, but it allows me to lock down the posts, so I can add new features onto the list and put them in columns of where they're at along the development timeline. And I can just open it up and allow people to come in and vote for things. And we do see changes in votes. People are actively coming in there. We haven't really just like really sent it out or told anyone about it, but we have a link in the footer and people are finding that and going there and actually upvoting the features that they really want to see next. Which
shows that you have a passionate user group, which is fantastic. One of the things that you and I have talked about quite a bit is that security that you just barely touched on. Can you go a little bit further in describing we're being really intentional to not read too much? Now, some of the other tools that do similar things like this honestly have access to everything that's being said. How are we approaching that so that we make sure that this is security above reproach, if you will?
So we do have a couple of competitors, and in addition to the 2 or 3 competitors that we have directly as known Slack apps, there's also a bunch of smaller personal implementations that they all have the same format where a plus or a minus in line is how you add points to someone. So you would mention someone, so your actual text in Slack would be @George, thank you, +1. And not an emoji, just the plus sign and a 1. And those apps, what they do is they read every message that comes through until they see a trigger for a name and then the plus or minus trigger. And that's how they count it. But in order to do that, they do have to parse every single message that is entered in either that channel or your entire workspace, which means you basically are giving them the keys to everything. And so that also gives them the way the Slack API works. You know, they are going to be authing through. They do get it's not so direct where they can store it, where you have hidden names for people, for your team, for your workspace name. However, they also have access to your full text and your actual name and your actual workspace, and they can do anything with that they want. They can store that for however long they want on their own servers. So our process, by just focusing on the emoji reactions, we never look at your text content. So we don't really know what they're responding to. We can kind of guess from the types of emojis they use if that is going to be good or bad, or we can provide you with like, you got a lot of smiley faces, or you got a lot of thumbs down, and you can make your own inferences from that because you're a part of that workspace and you can see it. But we're choosing to really make the hard line of our competitors are going to do that, but we're going to take a different path, and we are never going to read your messages, and we're never going to store your messages, and we're going to be secure by doing that.
And you've already gotten positive feedback. That is a way that a lot of, especially our larger organizations, really want us to see us go. Another question that popped up actually in our YouTube comments: what's a good story when you've been talking to either the users that you've interviewed or maybe the users from in the past? What's a way that people are actually implementing or using Scorebot in their culture? Do you have any good stories of how it's being used?
A lot of teams seem to only want to use one emoji and one fun emoji, something that they like highly identify with in their culture, or in Slack as a company, in their culture, they have a dusty stick emoji.
Yes.
And no one really knows what that means or why it came about, but it's a Slack company thing. And so people have really taken on things like that identify their company or emojis that they made for themselves. And they want that to be an indicator of something. So if something someone says is really funny or really indicative of the culture, they want to use that. Or if they need to balance things out, they want to have a balancer emoji. But it always comes back to, they just have their own way of doing things that's reflective of their culture. And so some cultures are going to be really into the fire emoji, but some are going to have their own weird little animated GIF that they want to use as the emoji.
One of the other questions that we also got on YouTube was, I guess the argument can be made, I think maybe what they're trying to get at, Jesse Jacob asked, also, why are there negative points for specific emojis? What's the example? I guess the argument could be made, if you're trying to enhance culture, you should only stay positive. Tell us some circumstances. Why would people want to kind of do the quote unquote vote down? How's that being used?
Well, when you set up your emojis, you can put any value you want in there. You don't have to put any negative values in there. It's up to you, but you are allowed to do a positive and a negative value if you choose. So most cultures are probably going to be only positive, but there's some, especially like the culture we have at Crema, where we are jokey in certain ways or sarcastic in certain ways. And so one of the things I do especially is we have a lot of dad jokes that get thrown around.
I mean, it happens a little bit. I mean,
there's a lot of dad jokes flying on Slack. And so a lot of times we have the 100 emoji, which is 100 points. But my personal favorite emoji is the one that we have, a custom emoji we have that's styled to look like the 100 emoji, but says 90 instead. And I have that set to a negative point value. And so when it's just a terrible groaning dad joke, I'm going to give you a 90 and I want to bring your points down. And it's nothing bad. It's nothing rude. Yeah, it's not rude or mean or hateful. It's just a eye rolling at the dad joke. I'm going to bring your points down just a little bit and knock you back down, just a tiny bit for that. And so it really is dependent upon your culture. You want to be careful before you put that in. You don't just want to throw in a bunch of negative hundreds and have them be on random things where people might accidentally use them. But there's certainly an instance where it could be fun or funny or fit in well with how you interact with each other.
I love it. I love it. I know in the past when we were doing user interviews, I don't think it was, maybe it wasn't this year, it was probably last year, we had talked, for those that had not heard that story, we'd actually talked to a university that this became a pretty crucial part of their culture. I'm not sure if they're still involved in the way they were, but I do know that some organizations take it very seriously for how they're measuring the office environment, which I love.
George, to that, I remember in that circumstance that they had a trophy that they passed around to the person that has the highest point value. And so it's like a part of their in-office culture.
That's right. I'm trying to see if there's some things in the chat here. A lot of dad jokes going on. So we're just gonna let those pass. Well, great. Any other final questions before we wrap up for Scorebot? Yeah, I'm so proud of the work that you guys did this year. I know there's a lot of intentionality on security, on infrastructure, on making sure we're supporting our users. I'm excited to turn on that billing next year, though. I'm not going to lie. I'm excited to see how that works out. So
yeah, we are. Yeah, we are.
Well done.
Me too.
Good job.
Good work.
All right. We're moving on, making good time. Quote, you're up next.
All right. Quote, my quote, folks are repping the quote shirt.
We got the
So
brand on the t-shirt. It's a real company now if it has a t-shirt.
That's right. Next coming at you are like 50-cent fake Frisbees. That's when you're going to know we've made it. Everybody see my screen okay? Great. And let me full screen here. Okay. So quote, so my name is Justin Murtis. I am the champion of quote, and I'm really proud to talk about what we've done thus far. For a little bit of context, Scorebot is a year 2 team. Meerkat was in a third of the year, and quote has been around from January. So January to now, so we are at the end of year 1. So a little bit about the origins of quote. When I completed my master's degree, I was like, this is great. Also, I'm going to forget everything I've ever learned. There's a lot of binging of books. There's a lot of reading, and I'd underlined a lot. I'm someone that likes to underline as I read, to process that way. And that means that I want to remember the things that I read. I don't just want them to serve the paper that I just wrote, but I want them to serve me in the future. And I want to continue to change and grow as I process the things that I've read. And I didn't have any consistent way of doing that. Some of my books were dog-eared, some were underlined, and I had my own little system for knowing what was important. But again, in different books and different bookshelves and boxes in the attic, some are in a paper, some are in Google spreadsheets. I was all over the place, and I had no idea what I was going to do about that. And so when Crema's Venture Lab opportunity came up, I said, I think that we can make a digital solution for this, because I don't see anything in tech that really addresses my need. And so last year we founded a group called Hippocamp. Hippocamp is a terrible name for a great product. Hippocamp is based on the idea that the hippocampus is the part of the brain that converts short-term memory into long-term memory. And so myself, Brandon, Justin, and Mary, we're focused on this idea of how do we take quotes that you've read or heard or seen and get them into your brain to stay for a longer period of time. So that was where we were last year. And right now we are an app on the iOS App Store. We will be having, it will be coming on Android soon. But how do we get here? How do we go from the idea of Hippocamp to quotes being on the App Store? We had to start from somewhere. To quote Arthur Ashe, start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. And that's what we did. So we started out asking a lot of questions, going through several different types of strategy sessions, trying to understand what our values were, what we wanted this app to be, who we thought the user would be, and what these priorities that our potential users have. And you can see these are different Miro boards we have mocked up, linking into other Miro boards. We like Miro here at Crema. And we don't like have a partnership, and I was paid to say that. We really do like Miro quite a bit. And so we had all these ideas, and it's after we prioritized these things, after we went through several strategy sessions led by some coaches at Crema, that we felt confident designing out a key MVP, a minimum viable product, designing out a prototype that we could put in front of users. And it's when we put these things in front of the users, about midway through the year, that we noticed big themes and what our key value props were. Every one of our team members interviewed several users, and we heard things like, I need optical character recognition. I need to put my camera in front of a book and be able to capture a quote. I want a web app, some way that I can connect from my phone to my computer. I need to be able to categorize, I need to be able to filter. I need to be able to add something now and process it later. Meaning if I'm reading a book, I don't just want to like sit down and type out, if there's a really rich chapter, I'm not going to waste my time. I want to read the chapter, maybe add a couple things, and then at the end of the chapter, even at the end of a book or at the end of a class, that's what I'm going to go through and process it for later. I want to be able to share things. I need to be able to be fast. I need it to be better than Apple Notes. That was the main competition that we heard, was it's got to be better than Apple Notes, which to be fair is a pretty low success metric. Sorry for any Apple Notes fans out there if there are. And also adding context for quotes. What are the things that came before and after? How did you hear it? What were you thinking when you heard it? Not just inputting a quote by itself. Where we got really excited was when during user testing, we heard the value propositions that our users described to us. There's nothing more satisfying, to quote a marketing professor of mine in college. She said, it doesn't matter what you think about your own product if your users don't think about it first. And so it was encouraging for us to hear value props like, I can finally have all of my quotes in one place. I can have my library in my pocket. I love that I can categorize and filter. I love that it can integrate into my workflow seamlessly. Those are the things that we wanted to hear, and those are the things that we did hear from our users. So now going into building this app and prioritizing what we're doing, to quote Charles Eames, the role of the designer is that of a very good, thoughtful host, anticipating the needs of his guests. And so that's what we wanted to be doing. We wanted to anticipate what is it that these users that we've talked to, now that we know these things, now that we've gone through several rounds of user testing, let's build the thing pretty confidently. And the way that we're going to do that is to focus on the core flow, C-O-R, and we're going to add on E in 2021. Core stands for capture, organize, and recall, and then engage, again, coming in the future. So what I'm about to show you is I'm going to walk through the COR, and you're going to see screenshots or GIFs, sorry, Tyler, of what those flows look like in the app as it stands now in the App Store. So capturing a quote, what does this mean? This means for us right now, the MVP is that we can add a quote with speed and with simplicity. Right now, you can add only a text quote. You can type it out manually or you can paste. I have it set up with my laptop so that if I copy something, on my laptop, I can paste into my phone, which is very convenient. And right now there's a single source field. So you can easily say, this quote is from, in this case, Nancy Massey, who is my 3rd grade elementary school teacher. So this is the capture part of the core flow. Next is organize. Organization means that you can tag and categorize all your quotes. You can use multiple tags. In this case, we're going to be tagging this quote. If it's worth doing right the first time, with quality, with discipline, and with patience. You're noticing that these quality and discipline are existing quotes. Patience, we are adding a new quote here. So we're going to go into that quote. We're going to go into the quote, edit that tag, and now we're going to change the color on patience. And one thing I'm excited about is being able to color code and even have like libraries that you can swipe through and know that all of your green things are related to this field, and having different color codes for people that are a little bit more type A perhaps. So now what do we do with these things? Now we can recall our quotes. What this means is that we can find our favorite quotes effortlessly. You can scroll through your huge feed of quotes, or you can search by quote, you can search by source, or you can find by tags. And so here we're searching for patience. We're going to select that tag, and every quote that includes patience here is showing up. And that's a really easy way for me to find that favorite quote that I have from Miss Massey. There's a lot more coming in 2021. We're going to get there, but this is the flow as it stands on the App Store now. The way that I like to think about quote is in the Goldilocks paradigm of somewhere between the oversimplification of Apple Notes and the overcomplication of Rome Research, of Notion, of Airtable, etc. I know that as I'm talking about quote, if you're someone that is hyper into productivity and you're more tech savvy, you may be saying, I can be doing all these things with a really robust Airtable setup. So Tuck, I know you're thinking it. That's not really who we're going for. And in all actuality, we're looking for people that are saying, I've been logging my quotes, they're all over the place, but it's just way too simple. It's not filling the need. But a lot of people are really overwhelmed by the nth degree. And there are plenty of platforms that do some of the things that quote does, but nothing fills that niche for people that are tech savvy, but want to remain simple. And that's where I'm really pleased that quote is in the market. So far this year, we're not doing any more this year. So year to date, at year end, we did 20 plus user tests. Right now we have 112 followers on our social platforms on Instagram and Facebook combined. We have 116 downloads on the App Store and 2,100 impressions on the App Store. What that means is that they've searched for another app and our app has shown up in their feed as they've been searching for other apps. Our app has been on the App Store for only about a month and a half. So I'm really excited about where we are. We obviously have a long way to go, but the users that we do have are really, really excited about what we're doing. So some things that we've learned this year. One, feature creep is easy. I think one of the biggest values, and I feel like it should be mandatory for Crema employees to be on a Venture Lab team because it gives us significant empathy for our clients. It's easy for me to be talking to a client in some sort of workshop and say, I know that you like all of them, but you need to prioritize one to focus on right now and deprioritize the others. But when it's my baby, it's like, but I want all of it. And so it's been good for me and good for us to realize how easy it is to add in features, especially once we rolled something to the App Store. We lost a lot of our prioritization. It became like, what are the things we need to fix right now? And we kind of lost a sense of the pace that we were going. Two, it's easy to go off of assumptions. This is something, I think one of the points of year one for a Venture Lab team is that we are regularly validating our assumptions, not internally, but with our users. Every one of us on the team has a different perspective. I remember one of our team members' grandmother passed away. And so this person was going through their text with their grandmother, and they were adding it into quotes so they could keep those kind words their grandmother spoken to them. Others are people that have been using a physical quotes book, and they only use that to capture their quotes, and that's how they want that replaced. Others are reading a lot of business books, and they want to be able to capture this for future content they want to produce. So it's easy for us to say, here's what we think, therefore here's what the users want. And it just must happen that we're talking to our users. Even as I process the app with my wife, she's like, this is not for me, until the light bulb went off one day and she said, I can capture our kids' quotes in there. I've been waiting for a place that I can capture kids' quotes where I don't lose it. And this is the perfect solution. And so it's important for us to be speaking not just to ourselves, but to our users to find out what their priorities are. And then three, and this is one of the things I'm most proud of my team, it pays to take the time to do things right. And so I want to focus on that. And again, going with that quote from Nancy Massey, if it's worth doing right, it's worth doing right the first time. I think one of the biggest things that we heard from other teams, other VL teams, is that year one can be something that's hastily done and accruing a lot of technical debt and building a lot of inefficiencies. And one thing I'm really proud of our team for is the patience that they've applied, is the discipline they've used, and it's the fact that they have eased our foot off of the gas in order to build something sustainable and something that's scalable. And to that end, we are really, really, really excited about 2021 because we are adding a new developer to our team, and we are ramping in with a lot more features, and we're really going to start putting our foot to the gas pedal at this time. So 2021, we're asking a lot of questions. Who are going to be our biggest fans? Is it the academic sector? Is it people that are more in the publishing world? Is it, there's a lot of different user groups. So who are our biggest fans? What are the key integrations to lean into? What are the platforms that we need to partner with that we should be making as a partnership? What are the social platforms we should be active on? How active should we be? Do people care about Facebook in this world, or should we live in Twitter and places where people are a lot more about creating written word content? How do we utilize analytics? These are all questions that we're asking, but none of these are our vital few for next year. Our three questions in the vital few for 2021 are as follows. Can we create and optimize the core flow? Again, that's capture, that's organize, that's recall, and that's engage. One thing that we are really leaning into, and I appreciate Brandon especially in this, is leaning into creating a workflow and a process that alone, even without the amazing UI and UX that we have, that it alone resonates with our users, that they say they understand how I work, they understand how our brain works, they understand our workflow, and it integrates seamlessly into it, that we could have even our process is a proprietary offering that that really provides value to our users. Two is our revenue model. How much will people pay for this? What's the most basic value prop to get them paid? Is it that text is unpaid and that camera integration and using OCR, optical character recognition, maybe that's where that level is from free to premium. Maybe we don't have any sort of freemium model or subscription model. Instead, we work in partnerships. Those are all questions that we have. And then some of this kind of boils down to, how do we operationalize our processes, our priorities, and our workflows? We are now a business. We're not just a scrappy team trying to get something on the market. We have something on the market. We have users, and now we need to have a steady Social presence, we need to be creating content. We need to be making partnerships. We need feedback loops where we're hearing back from our users, where we're interacting them. Where are bugs reported and how are we responding to them? And what does that look like knowing that we only have every other Friday? How do we make sure that we're rolling out features in a scalable, sustainable way that's meeting our users? How do we get a public roadmap? All of these are questions that we need to operationalize the work that we're doing. With that, the highest priority new features for us are optical character recognition, are a Chrome extension, both so that you can be working in Chrome and you can easily add a quote to quote using Chrome. You could highlight, use the extension, add it, and that you could recall it so that you can be working in a paper doc or a Google Drive doc. You can be working on something, you can use the Chrome extension and you can input a quote that you have from your database. More robust fields for sourcing. So not just one single source, but instead having a speaker or author, book, chapter, page number, magazine, issue number, or article number. There's all kinds of things, and leaving that as an opportunity for people that want to get much more granular with it, especially in the academic sector where people may be wanting to export this as a works cited page or have a bibliography with this. And then visual sharing. This comes into coming into Instagram. What does it look like to export in a way that's not just text, but is a way that you can share this with your friends and family in a way that is visually appealing? And you'll notice that each one of these lines up with one of those CORE functions. Optical character recognition is a way of capturing. Chrome extension is a way of engaging with it and a way of recalling it. Robust fields is a way of organizing. Visual sharing is a way of engaging with others. So all of this comes down to how do we make that seamless flow that takes what we have now and brings it to the next level of value. And one thing we're excited about is the fact that this is not just something that is preaching to the choir internally, but we have users that are reaching out to us saying, I wish the sharing feature were more sexy. This needs to work more seamlessly on my iPad. My workflow is on an iPad. Serious quote collectors need to import large text files. And again, you can see that core flow there, the sharing feature, engage. Seamlessly on my iPad. I need it to fit the way that I interact with it as I collect. And then serious quote collectors need to import large text files. Again, it's that capturing quote. So if we can figure out that and continue fleshing out that flow, I think we're going to be in a really, really exciting spot. I want to close with a quote from a user and then talk a little bit about my team. This is a quote I just received today. It said, I'm an avid reader and a listener of podcasts and audiobooks. I'm always hungry for inspirational content. For years, I've written great quotes all over the place, physical journals, Apple Note, Evernote, or random Word documents. If I wanted to reference the quote again, I had no idea where to find it and had to depend on my memory and Google to access it. Quote solves a serious problem that I didn't know I had. Example, this morning I was sitting in a meeting and one of my teammates dropped a great quote, and I opened quote and added it right in. Now, when I need some inspiration or I'm looking to do some writing or presentation, I need to find my most powerful quotes and topic by keyword. I could see myself using this app for years to come. So grateful it's here. As a 31-year-old male, a sales professional, someone that's in this, I'm consuming content so I can give back to others so it can inform how I work, inform how I live, knowing that if I can convert that short-term thing into long-term memory, I'm going to be a better version of myself. And this wouldn't be the case if I didn't have an extraordinary team around me. So I want to really quickly call out each team member and two things that I appreciate about them. Brandon Blackman has been serving as our product manager. One thing that Brandon's been doing and is going to continue doing for us in 2021 is he helps us prioritize what's important and he helps remind us what matters. It's easy for me to get shiny object syndrome, and Brandon is someone that brings it back to boots on the ground and helps us remember what really matters. Justin Kloss is our lead developer. He has exceeded our and his own hopes and expectations for his own abilities, and he does things slow and he does things right. He takes his time and he is willing to push back on me and say, we need to ease up. I need to focus on this first. And I really appreciate that about him. Mary is our lead designer, Mary Carnes. She has a personal elegance and she brings that to the UI. Elegance is maybe my favorite word to describe quotes the app. And it's one of my favorite words to describe Mary as well. And she has a real passion for simplicity. I think what Mary and Justin have done together has made Quote an app that feels like there's plenty of breadth and margin, which again is not the case for Roam Research or Apple Notes. And then we're excited that Nick Reynolds is joining us as a developer. He has a hunger to learn and to deliver exciting new features. The reason that this team matters is, to quote Phil Jackson, that the strength of a team is each individual member, and the strength of each team member is the team. So this is the team that we have going forward into 21 to roll out new features and provide even more value to our user base and to grow that user base. Quote is available on the App Store. You can visit us on quote.app online. Thanks so much.
Well done, Justin. Fantastic job, Quote. So much accomplished in 1 year. I am so impressed. You guys had that MVP out, I mean, mid-year, really. So impressed with what was accomplished and your laser focus. So I want to open up real quick with questions. Anybody have any questions for Justin or the Quote team about what was done this year?
I have a question about the future.
Let's do it.
If it's about the future of Quote, I may be able to answer, but other than that, I don't claim to know anything.
When will the pandemic go away, Justin?
Okay, I'll narrow it down to
that'll
Quote
be
then.
March 19th, 2022. But go on.
Do you have plans to integrate with like Nook or something like that so that I can hold down a quote and then put it in if I'm using Nook for my phone? The Kindle for my phone, I should say, not Nook. I didn't say that.
If you're, we absolutely have a, it is on our backlog to be able to share into Quote from your mobile device. So you'll be able to highlight in the same way that you'll be able to share with anyone else, share with other apps, you'll be able to add to Quote really simply.
Awesome. No judgments on Katie using a Nook still.
I don't. I have a Kindle. I've never had a Nook.
Okay, Katie.
Sure. Any other questions for Quote? Justin, a lot of the questions I think I would have brought up were going to be about what were some of the challenges, but you called those out on things that you learned this year. As you move forward, what is something that you're hoping you can continue to do? Meaning, you've got a lot of ideas that you want to start doing, but what's something you want to make sure that your team continues to keep from your year one learnings?
Yeah, the biggest thing for me is that Quote is an elegant experience. Mm-hmm. And I don't say elegant experience in that I think every B2C platform should have a semblance of elegance to it in table stakes, but I think that Quote has a really unique, peaceful elegance to it. And I think that as we roll out new features, as we go, as we have things for Android, as we have a Chrome extension, as there's all kinds of new things coming out, how do we make sure that it feels effortless, that there's room to breathe, that there's margin in the mind of the users, and in some ways, like in the soul, that when people collect quotes, it's sometimes utilitarian, but oftentimes it's therapeutic. And to go back and revisit those things is a peaceful thing. And so that's a real priority of ours, is to make sure we continue that elegance, not in a semblance, but as a priority.
That's great. It's great. Any final questions for Justin or the Quote team? Everybody's just making fun of each other for legacy technology. So we'll move on. Justin, Quote, so good. Proud of you guys. You accomplished a lot this year. Let's keep moving forward. The time is going by quick. We've got 30 minutes left, so we're going to try to move us forward. We have a very exciting, but also, come on, I guess we'll let him back in. Let's talk about.
Why did we do that? Why did we do that?
Cup.
Hey. I wasn't prepared. I was waiting for my line. Like, jump the gun. Dan, of all people. Of all people. Disappointment. I mean, excited, but
you're going to do a magic trick for us, right, Andrew?
Illusion. Wow. Okay, calm down.
Moving on. Let's get to it. Let's hear about Cup.
Hooray. All right. Well, I'm Andrew Watson, former Cremillion, as they are so called, future founder of Crema as well. It's so good to see all of you. I left before and coming back and get to see everybody. I'm so excited about that. All these presentations have been just amazing. Justin, I have to say, your presentation was so long. So now
Andrew's back.
Back, Andrew. We need you.
Not as long as your ears, Andrew.
Oh, that's not even clever.
We don't have enough time for this, guys. Move on.
Moving on.
Here we go. I gotta choose my desktop. Everybody calm down. There it is. All right. Share. I haven't worked with a computer since I left. Can everybody see my computer and not my, yeah, sure, whatever. Okay. Cup. Hooray. Okay, so anyway, I just want to huge shout out to Mandy to start. She put together most of this presentation. So I will just be reading off lines as long as you cannot see them. So wait for people to say hooray. Scene. Okay, so if you don't know, or if you just forgotten, Cup is a digital way to rate, remember, and discover the world of coffee. So there are a lot of solutions for this. Most of them are around messaging yourself or taking notes. I was a barista, as most of you know, for a very long time, and would take detailed notes on my coffee tasting experience throughout the day. So you'd be tasting coffee and you'd be like, oh, this is bad, or oh, this is good, and some more details to go along with that. So we, Cup, are one of the OG teams from 2019. So one of the guinea pigs. So the 8th year seniors, as Dan so lovingly put it, we are still around, we are still here, and we have not sold. So that's fun. But there's a lot that's happened. We've come a long way. We've done a lot of cool things. At the end of last year, our goals revolved around just expanding our reach. We had an app that was really good, but we wanted to expand our YouTube. The community in coffee is a really, really exciting one, but it's kind of segmented into people who are professionals and people who like coffee but don't know how to kind of get into it. So YouTube is a really great way for people to understand without having to engage with a snobby barista. So we launched a YouTube early 2019 and got some really good feedback with our first video and a bunch after. So for 2020, we were like, yeah, let's dig into that. Let's go. Our next thing was get involved and support local coffee events. There are so many coffee events that happen around the country, but there's barista competitions. There's ways to like start to bridge that gap between the casual coffee community and the professional. And then partnering with roasters was another big one. We knew that partnerships were a big thing, and they were part of what we wanted to really accomplish as far as bridging the gap between roasters and baristas, especially in helping their workflow. So we knew that was a big thing we wanted to do. I'm really happy to announce that we accomplished all of these within the first week of 2020. And nothing went wrong in 2020. I'm sure you all know this has been a banner year, and it's not even at all like that. It was a terrible, terrible thing that happened with COVID, and it kind of just reset us in a huge way. So because COVID happened, there weren't any coffee events for us to go to. I don't know if you heard, but you can't gather in a group of more than you. So we couldn't get involved with any of those coffee events that were going on. The partnerships were hard. Our first YouTube video had us all sharing coffee from one cup, and that took some damage on YouTube recently. So we had to like figure out what YouTube meant at this point. So a lot of our year was spent trying to figure out how do we go about this in a safer way when our biggest thing was community. How do we turn that into a virtual community? So at the end of last year, what we had built was a really, really beautiful app that Aubrey had designed, where the user could go in, they could fill out every single detail that they wanted to about coffee and about the coffee that they were specifically drinking. It looked amazing. It worked really well. We were super, super happy about it. But as the year went on, we realized we needed to kind of refine some things based on feedback. So we ended up building was a scaled down version of this. So I think in the first one, the way we had built it, those my kids don't look. The way we had built it, there were probably 500 clicks that you could potentially do to make your first entry. That's not a real number, but it probably could be. Now you could have an entry of coffee be within about 2 clicks. We added some really cool interactions with the flavor wheel. If anybody's seen that, it's this really huge wheel, kind of like the color wheel, but it has all the flavors of coffee in coffee that you could potentially taste. And so we condensed that down into this kind of carousel where it helps you choose very quickly. So shout out to Tyler on that for helping kind of guide and design a lot of that. We made a huge roaster database where we have, I think, one of the most comprehensive. We looked through a bunch of different lists and we're able to create one with, I think, over 3,200 roasters, US roasters, all right there. If anybody wants to help scrape images for all of those, that would be amazing, because we don't have that. So that was in the later 2020s, like 10 years ago, if anybody recalls that. Where the app has been going, we are currently in 5 different countries. So Italy being our top country, they like coffee. That's a supposed thing. There is some discrepancies here, though. Germany, I think, is saying, you know, not all the votes have been counted. So they're actually, we'll see if Italy can hold on to that title in the next coming months, because there's some controversy there. So 5 countries as of now. We have had 4 releases, which has been a big thing considering when COVID first hit, we kind of had a fire drill and we're really focused on client work for a few months. So being able to release 4 times was a huge thing for us. And being able to say, hey, we need to work on it a little bit outside of, you know, Venture Lab Friday. Do you have an hour here? Do you have a couple hours here? What can we do? Because fortunately, our team has been really passionate about being able to continue working on it. So getting out 4 releases was a huge thing for us. Within that, we have 738 users. I'm not gonna lie, I hadn't looked at the users in a hot second, and that number kind of blew me away just because I thought we were in the maybe a couple hundred. So it is really a cool thing to see so many people that have downloaded the app and are able to experience it, knowing especially kind of where we're going. Another big thing that we had focused on for 2019 was our YouTube presence. And we put out a couple of videos. So an update on that. We have over 1,500 subscribers, which is really awesome. Larissa has done an incredible job just editing our videos and making them actually professional, as opposed to the content that we've given her to work with. We were able to turn on ads at 1,000. So we're actually seeing, you know, that slight revenue kind of generate from that. We have over 250,000 views across all of our videos, which is awesome. I hear it doesn't hold a candle to the Cheap Sky video, but you know, if you go viral, you go viral. And this one I actually didn't really know, but we had over 4 million. I think I looked at it today, it's like 4.2 million, 4.23 million really angry comments on all of our YouTube videos. They're really terrible. Like, I didn't know that was going to be a thing. If you want to be depressed, go talk to Larissa. Not because you're talking to Larissa will you be depressed, but you'll just you can read these comments and they're just so mean. The internet, everyone, it gets rough. I'm not gonna lie to you. So what were our learns through 2020? Well, the first one we learned was partnerships. Partnerships were a major part of what we found we needed to do to continue to go forward. So a big one we've had has been Messenger Coffee, and specifically the head trainer there has been really influential in helping us know kind of what cafes are doing right now, what they're doing with their customers, how the COVID has affected them, because that has been had a huge impact on the coffee market, not only locally, but also globally. With that, we have a contact who one of our dear friends is Form out of Europe. They got us in touch with this guy named Philip, and he's in the UK. He runs a company that is the largest importer of African coffees in the UK. And that's been a really special relationship that we've had with him, just to be able to look at what we have, say, is this relevant, not only just for the US, but also kind of, you know, to coffee in general, globally. And he was really excited about, which what got us really excited, but he is involved in a lot of kind of social justice programs around the world, not only just with coffee, but with water and food and schools. And that just got us thinking, and like getting our big picture condensed down to, hey, coffee is an experience and coffee is a relationship, not only between you and maybe your morning routine, but also like there's still a relationship between you and that person that grew the bean, and being able to take that and, you know, make it not as abstract as like, yeah, somebody grew this coffee, but thinking, how can we bring the grower into the experience of actually remembering your coffee on a day-to-day basis is something I think we really started to think through. And how can we actually start to give back in a real way, and not just a, hey, thumbs up roaster kind of way, but like, what are the things that we can do to bring those partnerships and those relationships to fruition was a really cool thing that we started to look through with Philip. So with that too came momentum in the year. So that was a big hurdle to get through, especially around March. We weren't able to work on the project for a few months, and so during Lab Friday. So we were like, okay, who's working on what? What does our backlog actually look like? What do we need to focus on? How do we get there? Is it happening? That was very difficult at the beginning, but it all came down to communication. I think that was one of our biggest learns, is like, as a team, we need to communicate and we need to have like just really solid communication. A big thing was One Direction. Who's best? Is it Harry? Is it Niall? I'm Niall. I know a lot of people are Harry, but he's kind of whatever. No, One Direction. Pick your direction you're going to go. At the end of 2020, we had decided, or at the end of 2019, rather, we had decided that we were going to be this intermediate between the roaster and the barista and help that workflow and really start to make better coffee for people. But we learned that really the heart of what Cup is, it's a digital journal to help you remember what you have. And that's really what we had to focus on and make sure that people could input what they had, what they liked about it, and then be done and recall. So that was a really exciting thing to make sure that to realize that's what we need to focus on and to actually go at it. So for next year, we settled in this place of building community in app and in person. So bringing social to the app, being able to like and follow, kind of those things you'd expect from, an app in 2020 or 2021, some social aspect, being able to see what other people are doing. Roaster profile. So then bringing the roasters in to kind of help further that relationship with not only the roasters, but then get to the farmers. Again, bringing that social aspect or social justice aspect back was a huge thing that we learned kind of later in this year. And then revenue. I mean, we've been around for 2 years now. We've discussed so many revenue models, but one will kind of feed the other. But the roaster profiles and being able to give roasters a chance to sell on or have an affiliate link or something like that, but just actually deciding, hey, this is a great idea, but is it viable? Can we actually bring this into something that can make money, not only just for us, but be able to help the greater good with the coffee community and the world of coffee? So that will be done by this team. This is us in 2019. And this is us in 2021. You can see some of us aged a little bit more than others. I'm not going to point them out, but someone looks better sometime. I'm not going to point. Now, this is, I'm going to go back here a slide. So this is our team from 2020 this year. And I do just want to give a huge thank you to everyone that worked on it this year. Jake, you killed the development and were willing to deal with me being like, no, we're scrapping that idea. We're doing this today, and just being able to roll with any technical thing. Mandy, she totally just helped in any way possible that you can imagine, organization, development. She helped champion just what we were doing and why we were doing it in so many ways. Larissa, we did so many awesome videos and I'm forever grateful. Aubrey did the initial designs that were huge and amazing and just full of depth and richness. And I'm so grateful for her for giving Cup just the feeling and the life that it actually has. And it was just an incredible experience. So that was the team this year. The following team will be George is taking over as champion. I've heard he likes coffee. He's vowed never to have tea or decaf again. So I am happy about that. I don't know if you guys know that guy, the Chiefs guy is coming. We're doing that for brand recognition more than anything. I'm not going to lie. That will be exclusively YouTube videos. And then everybody else will continue on. That was a lot of words. And I literally prepared once for that entire thing. So Cup. I don't have a slide for you guys.
Hey, good work, everybody.
Well done, Andrew. It's always good to hear your voice. Glad to have you back for a moment here to give us a recap of everything you accomplished with your team this year. Thank you for doing that. We're running close on time, and I want to open it up. What questions do you have for the Cup team over this last year, or maybe what's the plan going forward? I didn't have the chat up, so if there's chat happening, please just ask.
It was so concise. No one has questions. That's good.
So a couple notes real quick. I am taking over as temporary. I want that to be clear. Temporary champion. I do have a coffee love, we'll put it that way, and have spent far too much in coffee gear this last year. So I might as well at least put it to some good use. So I'm going to be helping hopefully create some content around that space and maybe shape how we might move into a revenue model. But hoping that we can turn this into something that gains interest outside of Crema. Let's be honest, that's the goal, is to figure out what we can do to both grow this and then potentially spin it into something that has a life outside of just these walls. So more to come there. Any other questions though? I want to give us a couple minutes for questions there.
Yeah, there was one in there, George. Do we know what features folks are using most?
I mean,
Good question.
journaling.
Yeah.
Yeah, right now it's still kind of really revolves around the journaling. A lot of the updates that we made this year were around making a very robust roaster database. So honestly, we have one of the largest ones in the US, and then standardizing all of the inputs and then the copies as well was a big focus.
Yeah, there's been some quality control that I know that you guys have had to deal with making sure that images, because we did add images and the fact that users can submit images of the roast, of the bean, I guess.
Bean, yep.
Some people don't have a picture of the beans or the bag.
So
and
that's a selfie.
Of themselves. And let's just be honest, you're not
Some
being.
people are ugly. I'm kidding. They're not. But that wasn't. So they took pictures of me.
Quality control will be some things. Other questions? How are people outside the US finding the app? Do you know, Andrew?
Yeah, that's honestly something we've been kind of going back and forth on. Is we are in all countries just on the iOS App Store. So we've gone back and forth considering we only have US roasters in the database. Are we going to allow this to be without or only within the US, or limited to the US? Right now, I think they're just Googling. They're just looking for coffee apps, which we finally got above Goat Simulator 4. So pretty stoked on that. Not gonna lie, I appreciate everybody searching continually until you found Cup Hooray. But yeah, we're just above I Drink Beer on my iOS app.com. So you can search and find it there as well. But keep saying we, it's so sad. Like keep saying we.
Keep you involved, Andrew. This is still your baby, still your idea. I want to give you credit for that. So we'll bring you back. You'll see Andrew again as we make updates and keep moving forward. And of course, when he leaves where he's working and comes back. So whatever.
Founder. Oh, sorry.
Future founder. Oh, Andrew. Oh, Andrew.
Nice job, Cup.
Hooray, everyone.
Thank you, Andrew, for coming back. Okay, well, we want to have one last surprise that is not an active team, but had a pretty big event this year. We thought we'd bring it back. We thought we'd celebrate a little bit. So I want to bring back the Vera team to give us a bit of an update of what was accomplished in 2020 with Vera.
Awesome. Thanks, George. And hello again, everyone.
Hi.
So I'm gonna go over what the Vera team accomplished during the first 2 trimesters of Venture Lab. For the ones that were not part of this demo, last year, Vera was a project that kicked off last year, and we launched an MVP around this time of the year on 2019. So 2019 was an amazing year for us, and we went on 2020 with the goals of increase our user base, the community and shop features, and also we were big on partnerships. We knew we needed to find partnerships in order to grow Vera even more. What ended up happened is that Vera was acquired. Vera rollout of Venture Lab in the fall this year. But we still wanted to talk about what the team did in the first 2 trimesters of Venture Lab. So during those 9 months of the year, we were able to launch a new home screen. We were iterating on the designs based on user feedback. So we were releasing new updates around every 3-4 weeks. With this, we also launched the new fertilization notifications. And the MVP only allow users to add watering reminders. We also launched a sort by features on the My Plants page and a plant count. We launched the ability to log other activities aside watering. So misting, potting, fertilization, and adding notes. We translated the app into Portuguese and Spanish. We did a lot of marketing, blogs and Instagram engagement, and also move all the designs from Sketch to Figma. The biggest product win for this team was the Vera grew organically. We put no marketing dollars on 2020, and by the time it rolled out of Venture Lab, it had around 220,000 downloads. It ranked for Plan Care app and Plan Care management without advertising, and we had 4.0 above ratings in both iOS and Android. As I said, Vera was 5 trimesters on Venture Lab, so there were a lot of learnings. And I actually gathered this from the core team, and the first one is that learn from the hackers of the world. This is huge. 2 of the most well-received features came from the very early interviews, where we didn't even know we're creating a Plan Care app. We're actually focused on an IoT device. And a person said that she creates albums on the Photos application to track growth of the plants. And the way how she hacked that a feature, not for the purpose of collecting images, but for track the growth of her plants, really gave us ideas that for us were really low effort items, but in the mind of the user were really huge. And that was one of the things that in the reviews, users really love how the plant profile, which was also an idea from user interviews, and how they were able to track the growth of the plant. And that's actually, we use the same wording that she said in our marketing. So that was really great. So definitely learn from those hackers. People hack, if they have a problem, they will hack. So make sure you're paying attention to that. It's something that Justin said too. Release early and often. This is something that also in the reviews, people really appreciated the fact that Vera kept getting better. And that was thanks to the developers who were very committed to release every 3-4 weeks. Listen and interact with customers. This is something that they also appreciated, the fact that we were taking the time to answer their reviews. Even if something broke, we reach out to them to apologize. So we had a lot of interaction with our user base, but you have to also learn to balance those opinions. You cannot go and build every single thing that they request. With a product like Vera that we had, a little baby was just an idea. Maybe that's an opportunity to take risk with the brand. That's something that, but you have to build a safety net around that. Brand is really important. And at the beginning, it's probably the right time to take a risk. My thought process with that was that if we get Vera to rank on their Plan Care app, I want people to see it. So I had 2 designs. I had the pink design and I have the green design. And I talked to the developer, hey, if we have to default back to a app that is green, just like the others, can we do it fast? So we built that structure. So we took a risk. It was a huge risk on the design side of the house, but it was the right time. And on that early decisions you have to make, and the importance of getting backlinks and referrals. This is something that Gabi, our marketing specialist, did. And it was really good to get those early adopters. It made a huge difference. Vera grew really fast because of this. And also that ideas, they come from unexpected places. Sometimes we tend to focus on the expert too much, and make sure you listen to our perspective, because that's probably where you're gonna find the right solution for the problem you're trying to solve. And with that is testing. We saw a lot of value of talking to people, and the excitement that we had with the product. They were able to talk to us for free. It was the first time that I was able to get people to interview and don't offer them anything, just like, hey, we want to build this product and we want to build it right. And they knew that excitement from us too. Oh, that's it. Thank you very much.
Right. Real quick, from the leadership team, this was a huge, Vera was a lot of learnings on all fronts of product development. And this is a brand new model for us. We're used to building for our clients, working with them, and then they get to go and take their product and make a successful business out of it. So this was not expected. We were hoping for this, but we really were able to learn two things. One, around the end game of a product, and then also around the deal itself. And what I mean around the end game, there are so many different ways that a product could exit Crema or exit Venture Lab. It could be spun off into its own company. It could be a joint venture. It could be a straight just acquisition, depending on what time and what the resources we could invest in the product. And it worked out great to have a conversation around a strategic partnership, but then really entered into, well, what if we just bought it? And that was news to us. And so then we went to run into George and I having many conversations around what's it look like to sell a product? We've never done that before. We've worked with clients who've been doing that. We've had many conversations with friends and peers in the industry who have done that. They've gone through rounds of fundraising. They've put value on their product and use that as they went and raised money. We've never done that before. How do you put a value on something that doesn't have a revenue model, but it's got an amazing track record of building users? These were all questions we didn't know how to answer. And so we're proud to say that we were able to land on something that we were happy with, but also it not only allowed us to learn something, but it made us even more curious for more products down the road, because there are literally hundreds and hundreds of ways to structure a deal around a product. I mean, you can get as creative as you want, and we're going to get a lot right, and some will be like, that was a learning experience. But we're thankful to say that Vera, on multiple fronts, not just the product itself, but the team that built it, but then also having this as just a case study for Venture Lab was just amazing. So a lot of learnings all the way around.
I agree.
I'm so proud of this team, of the work. Pamela, let's just all give Pamela a huge clap right there. She's incredible and really led that team and led that direction and that vision for that product. Of course, was able to continue working on it as it became part of Bloomscape. And I know that they valued that relationship with you as well. And honestly, said nothing but amazing things about your abilities and your insight. So well done. You deserve that. This is a great year to celebrate it. My voice is gone, guys. I have led too many of these sessions in the last week where I'm supposed to give something inspiring at the end. I don't know if I have a whole lot left. I'm going to be honest. I also had to give a speech earlier today. I had a big, Dan and I sang on this morning together just for fun, just as a side note, just for fun.
Prove it.
No, I can't. It's gone. I am so incredibly proud of all of you. This is something interesting and unique that Crema gets to do, right? This isn't something that every company gets a chance to say, hey, we're going to open up for this kind of creative work in and around the work that actually allows us to pay for you all to work here, right? And so, I mean, it's not much more complicated than that. But we know that it's such an incredible opportunity for you to learn and grow. And I'm thankful that you guys don't take that lightly. It could be very easy for you to take this every other Friday and go cool, it's our free Friday. We're going to check out, right? And we don't see that happen very often. There are days when people need to rest, and I get that. But for the most part, you guys actually take the time to go, awesome, what can we accomplish today? Whether it's through your Lab Friday experiments and exploration or through teams and Venture Lab. And that makes me very proud, because I know that you're not taking advantage of this really flexible time to learn and grow and do something great. And that means that you value each other as well. So kudos, well done, proud of their work.
Speaking of valuing each other.
Oh, Dan, you called it out. I almost forgot about it. I'm glad you.
Let's leave
end meaning for all.
Inspire through accolades. So I would like everyone to say something nice about me. No, that's a joke. No. Last year we had accolades for other people. Okay, last year we had an MVP, Luis. our inaugural, our returning MVP. We had several nominees this year, and after going through all of them, the winner for 2020 Venture Lab MVP, Justin Kloss. Justin Murtis, I'm going to kick it over to you.
That was actually misspeak. I am the MVP.
No, Justin,
just
continue.
Something about, yeah, so I've written out something I'd like to say about Justin. Justin Kloss has been an outstanding, reliable, talented, and humble member of the quote team. He's been transparent with his opinions. He has equipped us to make wise decisions, and he has made a lot of insightful contributions. He's gone above and beyond expectations that we had for him, for his work ethic, his efficiencies, and his willingness to work outside of working hours on quote. And not only this, but I think he has exceeded his own expectations. He has grown in his skill set, and it's been a joy to see him come into his own as a lead dev in so many ways. He is an absolutely essential part of our team, and his perspectives, his demeanor, and his commitment to our team have helped this journey be a joy and gotten quote to where it is. So Justin, thank you for an amazing year of hard work, and congratulations on being Venture Lab MVP 2020.
Congrats, Justin.
Well said, Justin, well said.
Steph, what do we have for Justin?
Well, we know he likes quotes, but we also know that he likes coffee. So you'll be receiving some goodies from Oddly in the mail within the next question mark days because Christmas. But congratulations. Celebrate with a nice cup of Joe and some other surprise.
Close us out, Dan.
Congratulations, Justin. All right, it's 5:03. Thank you to our guests who joined us both on YouTube, but also here on this Zoom call. Really enjoyed having you. It's Friday. Good night, everyone, and have a great weekend. See you all.
Hey, so good to
Oh,
see you.
wonderful. Miss
Bye.
you.